Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Mayor Comrie here. I think I see all of our councilors present. Councillor Joe Lamb, Councillor Joe McEwen, Councillor Beth Gorham Matthews, and Councillor Brian Woods. We have our CAO clerk, Michelle Hendry, our interim treasurer, Barb Crivet, our planner, John Jackson, and our fire chief, Bob Whitman. And I see a number of other members of the community here joining us. So welcome all of you to this regular council meeting of Tuesday, April 5th. And I think we will, since we have everybody ready, we will start as we usually do with the playing of our national anthem, followed by our Indigenous land acknowledgement statement.
Mr. Mayor, it's the CAO clerk here. I've been struggling with this for about 10 minutes. For some reason, I can't seem to share the video that we use for the national anthem. So I'm afraid we may have to forego that tonight. I apologize.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess if we have technical difficulties, we have technical difficulties. We'll carry on then with the Indigenous land acknowledgement statement, which reads, the municipality of Whitestone recognizes all of Canada resides on traditional, unceded, and or treaty lands of the Indigenous people of Turtle Island. We recognize our municipality on the Robinson-Huron Treaty Territory is home to many past, present, and future Indigenous families. This acknowledgement of the land is a declaration of our commitment and collective responsibility to reconcile the past and to honor and value the culture, history, and relationships we have with one another. Thank you. First item is to ask the councilors if anyone has a pecuniary interest to declare in the matters that we'll be discussing tonight. Hearing none, let the record show that there was no pecuniary interest declared. Could I then get a motion to approve the agenda as circulated, please?
I'll make the motion, Councillor Lamb.
Councillor Lamb moves, seconded by.
I'll second Councillor McEwen.
Thank you, Councillor McEwen. Any discussion? Is anyone opposed to this being the agenda? All right, thank you. We have an agenda. We have some a couple of matters arising from a closed session that we had prior to the supper hour. So item 3.1 is to approve the closed session minutes from the regular council meeting of March 15th, 2022. Could I have a mover and seconder for that, please?
I'll move Councillor McEwen.
Thank you, Councillor McEwen, seconded by.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Gorham Matthews. Is anyone opposed to those minutes being approved? They have already been discussed and closed. Thank you. They're carried. Under item 3.2, in the closed session, which dealt with human resources matters, we have a motion that the following volunteers be appointed to the Thrift Shop Committee. And I believe I have on the list Joanne Avery and Pam Galloway, and I believe there was a third one. Am I Am I correct, Madam Clerk?
The one's for the rec committee, another one for the rec committee.
Oh, okay, so
Yes.
I apologize. So there were only two for the thrift shop committee, is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, okay, my apologies. All right, so would someone move that Joanne Avery and Pam Galloway be added to the roster of the thrift shop committee?
Move, Counselor Woods.
Thank you, Councillor Woods, the seconder.
I'll second Counselor Lamb.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. Any discussion? Anyone opposed? All right, thank you. And next, we need a mover and seconder that the Council of Municipality of Whitestone approve the following volunteer to be appointed to the Recreation Committee, Jessica Ann Dryer.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb, seconded by,
I'll second, Councilor McEwen.
thank you. All right, is there any opposition to this motion? Hearing none, I declare it carried, and welcome, ladies, to your respective committees. We're very glad to have you on board. We have no presentations and delegations on the agenda for this evening, so I'll entertain a motion to move into the committee of whole to deal with two planning items and a quick budget discussion.
I'll move, Councilor McEwen.
Thank you. Councillor McKinnon moves, seconded by,
I'll second, Counselor Woods.
thank you, Councillor Woods. Let this meeting move into committee of the whole at, and it looks like 6:42 PM. All right. Any discussion? Any opposition? Okay, thank you. We are in committee of the whole. And the first two items are planning items, the first of which has been in front of us once before. And it was deferred for some refinements, I guess. I'll ask our planner, John Jackson. John, would you like to just introduce what's happened to the first one? Is the applicant is the Greenwoods. This is 8.1.1. Would you like to bring us up to date on what's happened since we last discussed this?
Thank you, Mayor Comrie. The applicant has retained a biologist to give him an evaluation of what the concerns might be with respect to critical or significant fish habitat. And so he's on board with that, and that's being carried out. I do know that there was a concern about whether it would do the whole of the shoreline properties, but it's been refined to those areas that were flagged, if you like, as potentially significant. So I think that was the only outstanding issue. The original application was going to suggest an alternate right-of-way, but they've gone back to protecting or preserving the original right-of-way. So there's no issue in that regard. So it's just a matter of council putting forward its comments with respect to the application.
Okay, thank you. So are there any questions or comments on this from councillors?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councillor,
Lamb.
Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, thank you. John, I'm just looking, and I'm supportive of this, and I think we've got there now, but I guess my first question is, Mr. Greenwood gets to pick his biologist or whatever to do this study. He's obviously paying for it, so I assume he picks it, and the results of the study come into you or to the municipal office or something. Is that correct?
Yeah, we share that amongst all the interested groups, including the municipality.
Okay, good, thank you. Secondly, just out of interest, when I was looking at the map on page 3, which is page 9 of the entire agenda, 9 of 112, but page 3 of your report. When I look at proposed lot, I'm trying to think here, 3, and the retained land A, there seems to be a pinch point there from the retained lands. It doesn't, like, how much land is that? It doesn't seem to be able to, you get where I'm getting at? Why wouldn't there be a little more land in that corner?
Well, I think the actual functional frontage would be on the bigger lake, on Whitestone Lake. That pinch point wouldn't have any functional water frontage for the smaller Wilson Lake.
Oh, no, I'm not suggesting it does. I'm just saying, why does it seem to go into nothing? It seems to go to nothing, and then, it seems like two pieces of land being connected by very little land.
Yeah, I think your observations are correct. So I would consider it a Whitestone Lake front lot rather than a Wilson Lakefront lot. And I can't give you any information on why that pinch point is there at all. I'm not sure if Ted's on the call, Your Worship. Is Ted there?
I don't see him unless he's called in on one of the phone numbers that I don't recognize, but Ted, you're not. Well, I guess we're not going to find out unless
Okay.
our CAO knows, but
Yeah, it's nothing to hold this up, but I would have expected to see a little isthmus of land or something between the two retained A and retained B. Instead, it seems to come to 0, and then it seems to come from 0 from the other end. So, I mean, I don't know whether that's 10 feet wide or 12 feet wide or 1 foot wide. I don't know. So anyway, it's just of interest.
It's a good question. I will follow that up, Mayor Comrie, and see what the rationale is, but it is a point where I don't think it'll have much functionality on the smaller lake.
No, I don't think so either. Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
other questions and comments about this one?
No.
Councillor McEwen, were you?
No, Mr. Mayor, my hand wasn't up.
Oh, sorry, I
That's
just saw I just saw it, like your microphone flashed for a minute. No, I see that Sue Jennings, one of our ratepayers, is on the call and she has her hand up. Were you looking to ask a question, Sue? You're muted if you're trying to. Okay, we're not getting a microphone for some reason.
Mr. Mayor? Councillor
Yeah, we'll go ahead, Councillor Woods. I'll take you first while we.
Are we sure if Mr. Greenwood's not on the call? Maybe he's just muted somehow. So I spoke to him earlier today. And he told me he was going to be attending to answer questions if need be.
Hello.
Hello, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Ted, can you can you go ahead and did you hear the question?
Yes, I did, from Joe
It's not a pinch point, Joe. You're looking at two property lines that are being switched. So there's no little piece of property. The property line is going to turn about 30 degrees there, and that's what you're looking at. It's not a pinch point, if I'm understanding what you're saying. There's no little piece of property there. The existing property line is being moved to get the proper acreage on the new lot, 6.49 or whatever hectares, and you can see that property line is changed, and that leaves about, I don't know, 25 or 26 meters on the backside there in between a new survey stake on the Wilson side. Have I explained that? Do you understand that? Everybody looking at that?
So we are looking at page 9 of 112 in the package. Are the retained lands A and the retained lands B, are they connected or not?
No. Retained land A, but there's no retained land A and B. I'm confused on that.
Well, are you looking at the same thing the rest of us are?
Well, probably not, but I'm looking at a survey. I don't have the agenda in front of me because I never printed one off. So
Oh.
let me see if I can pull it up here on my phone. Let's see what I can do here.
Maybe I could ask the CEO clerk, is it possible for you to put that page on to share
Screen?
that page on the screen?
That would be fantastic. I don't have last month's agenda.
No, I'm looking here. Where's the fucking, which page?
I think I'll have the same problems as I did with the, with O Canada. There's a new protocol on Zoom, and that I can't minimize the screen because we're recording, and I need to minimize the screen to access the agenda.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
I've got the picture up on my phone. We are talking about proposed lot number 3, I presume.
Well, it looks like, I guess what we can't tell from the diagram in Mr. Jackson's report is whether proposed lot 3 completely separates retained
Yes.
lands A and retained lands B. Is that
Yes,
in
it
fact what
does.
happened? So
Yes,
it does.
It didn't until this survey. A and B touched at one point in time because it was only 2 lots being A and B. Now the proposed lot 3 changes that property line from being on a, say, 7 o'clock to 2 o'clock now to 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock, separating retained lands B and A. Yes.
So does proposed lot 3 have frontage on Wilson Lake?
Yes, it does.
Does it have enough frontage to do anything, or is what?
It's not required because it's the back of the lot, not the front of the lot, what I've been told.
Okay. All right. So that's, I don't know. I guess that answers the question. Thank you. That answers the question.
Thank
that
you.
Councillor Lamb raised. So thanks, everybody. Now I still see that Sue Jennings' hand is up. Did you have a?
No, Ted actually talked to you through my laptop, so that's why.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So, are there any other comments or questions concerning this particular application? If not, we will come to a resolution to approve it then when we move back out of committee of the whole into the regular session. So I think that with that, Mr. Warboys, and once again, I'll ask our planner if he would lead this off.
Thank you, Mayor Comrie. The application involves a property that is on the west side of Shakel Road, which is a municipal road created to service waterfront lots on Limestone Lake. And it was a subdivision on Limestone Lake that was created during the era when the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing approved subdivisions and not the planning board. And a very typical consent land division approval included the requirement for a 1 foot reserve on the backlands. And so the only issue related to this particular application is that should the rural lot creation proposed by the Warboy matter for 2 new lots would require the removal of the 1 foot reserve or the 0.3 meter reserve in metric to allow access to occur. And in today's typical policy framework, that's not a problem because we have rural land use controls that essentially the province assumed weren't sufficient in the past, but that is now considered old technology. So this is supportable. They meet the planning instruments, and all we'd have to do is simply, as a condition of this approval, is lift that or rescind that 1 foot or 0.3 meter reserve.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Again, I'll open it up for questions and comments by councillors.
And Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, I remember when this came to council, and there was quite a number of people that came out from Limestone Lake that were against this. And I guess that there was some reasoning behind the decision that we made. So do the people on Limestone Lake know this is occurring? Like, I mean, what have we done to reach out?
If I can, through you, Your Worship, the circulation would include all the people on Limestone Lake. It's somewhat interesting because the former application of 10 years or so ago was opposed by a number of Limestone Lake property owners who were opposed to any land division of the lands behind them. The basis of their opposition primarily related to the fact that these people use the backlands for their own particular enjoyment, which was essentially a trespassing issue. But curiously enough, those opposition property owners on Limestone Lake have all moved along, so they're not there any longer, and that the opposition that those persons had is now somewhat moot. This particular property is farther to the east, where there wasn't the kind of opposition that occurred from the lands towards the end of Shakel Road, which ultimately didn't create a new lot, but were acquired by a property owner as a lot addition. So there's an entire change and shift, if you like, in terms of the concerns that former owners have, and I don't think that the kind of pushback is going to occur in this particular application. So the sense that I have is that it's simply administrative. We have rural policies that are in place, and I don't believe that there's any real strong basis to oppose what is being applied for by Mr. Warboys.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, through you.
Go ahead, Councillor McEwen.
Yeah, Mr. Jackson, as I recall, a few years ago, there was a lot extension at the end of Shackle. And we did, in essence, rule off or take off the 1 foot or the whatever the little strip is in front of that property to make it accessible for the person extending. I'm just curious, John, how many properties would be around the municipality with this 1 foot restriction? Can't be very many, is that correct?
Well, only where the province was the approval authority for waterfront subdivisions, they put the 1 foot reserve almost automatically on the open sides of waterfront subdivisions, thinking that there would need to be a control to development. And that I call old technology because we have lots of regulatory instruments to control development. One of which, of course, is the official plan that says you can only have limited density in the rural areas. So it really was essentially a carryover of bad or old technology that's no longer needed. In today's planning environment, no one ever puts a 1 foot reserve anywhere these days.
Okay, and I guess the second point I'd like you to comment on is under the rural policy, consent should be limited to number and new lots shall be of a larger standard to maintain the qualities of the rural area. I know council has dwelled on that one considerably, where there's actual space to make these lots bigger. Do you think it would be appropriate to put a minimum sort of frontage such as was in the one 10 years ago there? I see it was 100 meters and 2 hectares of size. 2 hectares is considerable, but.
Yeah, and this application actually complies with those standards.
So it's beyond it. Okay.
Yeah, so there are no density issues whatsoever.
So it fits with our policies in essence of yesteryear.
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I ask, do we know what is the purpose of these of the severance? Is the intent to sell them as building lots? Is that?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, there'll be essentially lots in excess of 5 acres with 400 feet of frontage and just be rural lots. And we all know that today's economy is such that those will probably realize a substantial investment.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions or comments about this particular one? Okay, well, if there aren't any, again, we'll come back to this one in when we come out of committee of the whole with the motion to approve it. The other item that we have for committee questions, and there is an updated budget report in your package. I'll ask our treasurer, Barb Cribbett, if she would like to just introduce that and I don't believe there's much change of consequence since the last time we revisited this on March 22nd, but if there's anything changed, Barb, perhaps you could highlight that for us.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. There really has not been a substantial change at this point. The two questions that we had at the last meeting had to do with the road grant, and that there was some discussion around the what is the meaning of households as it pertains to the road grant. Does it include vacant lots or not? We went back through some of the documentation, and it really was not clear what the term household meant. I included the dictionary definition of household just so we can see what it is. But at this point, I think the thought was that we would proceed with the road grant program for 2022. And during that process would review the road grants and the number of households in each one as we were going through them to see what it looks like in terms of, is it including vacant lots? Are they strictly developed lots? It would take a little bit of time, but that's pretty much what we would have to do. The other question had to do with the funding of the shortfall of 78,000. The year end has been completed and is with the auditors. I haven't heard back from them yet. They're still going through and asking for more questions. But I'm confident that we will, number one, have an answer by the time we get to the public meeting. And number two, that we will have sufficient retained surplus to cover this shortfall. And we would bring that forward as part of the public meeting.
Okay, thank you. Questions and comments about that report?
That answers my concerns.
Good report, Mr. Mayor, Councilor McEwen.
Okay, well, thank you. I didn't do it, but I will pass the thanks on to our treasurer. Okay, if there's nothing, this is just an opportunity for you to take one more look at it. When we come out of committee of the whole, there are a couple of motions related to setting the public meeting and so on, which I gather in the past we've done by council resolution. So we'll get to those in a minute. Anything else for committee of the whole? All right, going once, going twice. Can we have a motion then to reconvene into a regular meeting?
I'll make that motion, Councillor Lamb.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb, seconded by
I'll second.
Councillor Gorman Matthews, seconds. Thank you. Any opposition? Hearing none, I'll declare that carried, and we are at 7:08 p.m. Now, as I indicated, we do have then some resolutions arising from committee of the whole. The first one is 8.1.1, the Greenwood consent application. And I'll ask for a mover and seconder for the following. Whereas John Jackson Planner Incorporated has prepared a revised report for the Parry Sound Area Planning Board regarding consent application V05-2022 Whitestone. The applicants, Ted and Karen Greenwood, and provided a copy to the municipality of Whitestone. And now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone receives this revised report as information, and that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone recommends this consent application for the creation of 3 new lots, 2 lot additions, together with rights of way to the proposed lots 1 and 2, and for approval in principle, subject to the following conditions. 1, that payment of a parkland dedication fee be made in accordance with the current municipal fees and charges bylaw. 2, that the new lots receive 911 addressing from the municipality. 3, that the applicants enter into a section 5126 consent agreement with the municipality of Whitestone to be registered on title to the effect that the access to the proposed lots 1 and 2 is by a private right-of-way. 4, that proposed lot number 1 be evaluated by a qualified fishery biologist to confirm that an area for a dock is available for this lot. And 5, that payment of all applicable planning fees be made to the municipality. Can I get a mover and seconder, please?
I'll move it, Counselor Lamb.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb, seconded by,
I'll second, Counselor Woods.
thank you, Councillor Woods. Any further discussion on this one? Okay, if there isn't any, I will ask our clerk to call the roll for the vote, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Gore Matthews,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes,
Councillor McEwen,
Yes,
Councillor Woods,
Yes,
Mayor Comrie.
Yes,
Thank you. That motion is carried.
thank you. Moving along to item 8.1.2, which is the War Boys consent application. Whereas John Jackson Planner Inc. has prepared a report for the Parry Sound Area Planning Board regarding consent application B06 2022 Whitestone. Applicants are the applicant is Roger Warboys, and provided a copy to the municipality of Whitestone. Now therefore be it resolved that the council of the municipality of Whitestone receives this report as information, and that the council of the municipality of Whitestone recommends this consent application for the creation of 2 lots for approval in principle, subject to the following conditions. 1, payment of a parkland dedication fee be made in accordance with the current municipal fees and charges bylaw. And 2, that the new lots receive 911 addressing from the municipality. 3, that council approved the lifting of the 0.3 meter reserve fronting the subject lands for both the retained lot and the newly created lots. And 4, that payment of all applicable planning fees be made to the municipality of Whitestone. Is there a mover and seconder for that one, please?
I'll move, Councilor McEwen.
Thank you. Seconded by,
I'll
I'll
second, Counselor
second.
Woods.
okay, thank you. I got, I think I heard Councillor Woods first, so Councillor Woods will be the seconder. Any discussion? All right, if there's no further discussion, I will ask our clerk to call the roll, please, for the vote.
Thank you. Councillor Gore Matthews,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
yes,
Councillor McEwen,
Yes,
Councillor Woods,
Yes,
Mayor Comrie.
Yes,
Thank you. That motion is carried.
thank you. All right, that brings us then to item 8.2.1, which is the operating and capital special projects budget. And it has to do with the annual road grant funding. I'll read the motion and then ask for a mover and seconder. Whereas bylaw 30-2017, being a bylaw to adopt a protocol for the authoring authorizing of annual grants for the purposes of assisting road maintenance costs to property owners on private and unassumed roads, provides that the grant to be provided shall be determined by council during the yearly budget process based on a calculation of the X factor and Y factor, where X factor represents dollars per kilometer and Y factor represents dollars per household. Therefore, be it resolved that both the X and Y factor be increased by 3.5% for 2022 and shall be $359.45 and $54.63 respectively. And that the total available funds in the 2022 operating budget for road grants be increased by a further 1% to allow for an increase in participation. Would someone like to move that?
I'll move it, Counselor Lamb.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb, seconded by.
I'll second Councillor Woods.
Thank you, Councillor Woods. Is there any discussion on this one? Okay, hearing none, I'll ask our clerk to call the roll again, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Gore Matthews,
yes,
Councillor Lamb,
Yes,
Councillor McEwen,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes,
Thank you. That motion is carried.
so now we have a motion with respect to the public meeting. Well, with respect to the draft budget, that the council of the municipality of Whitestone receive the memo draft operating and capital special projects budget for the year 2022 prepared by interim treasurer Barb Cribbett. And that no adjustments be made to the draft 2022 operating and capital special projects budget as presented. And that the 2022 tax rate increase be set at 3.5% as recommended by the treasurer. And that public notice be provided as per bylaw 77/2007, that the council of the municipality of Whitestone will be giving consideration to a bylaw to adopt the 2022 municipal budget and set the 2022 taxation rates on May 3rd, 2022. Could I get a mover and seconder, please?
I'll move, Councillor McEwen.
Thank you, Councillor McEwen, seconded by.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Gore Matthews. Any discussion on this motion?
yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, what this does is just advance it to the public meeting, in my mind. And then once we have the public meeting, we finally, after that, we approve the budget. Is that correct? Like we do a final approval.
The final approval would be at the meeting on May 3rd.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, are you ready for the question? This is really just setting a date, I guess. Is there any opposition to this motion? I don't think we need to call the roll. Okay, hearing none, so May 3rd which is our first regular council meeting in May, will be the meeting to finally approve the budget. There's one remaining item from this discussion that I thought that we should have a resolution on. And this has to do with boat launches in general. And the Gooseneck Lake, the proposed Gooseneck Lake dock in particular. And I wasn't convinced that this motion was necessary, but I wanted to make sure that there wasn't, that we didn't set any false expectations about, I don't know how quickly this is going to happen, because of, there's a certain amount of process, as you'll see, that some of which we don't have control over. So I'll read the motion and ask for a mover and seconder. That inclusion in the 2022 capital budget of the Gooseneck Lake Dock is contingent upon the following prerequisites to be completed prior to the commencement of any procurement or installation work. Number one, staff complete a needs study for the Gooseneck Lake boat launch and other public lake access points in the municipality for which needs have not already been assessed, to determine parameters such as volumes of anticipated use, size of parking area required, and upgrades required to roads and or shoreline. And two, staff secure any Crown land use permits and in-water works permits required for the proposed installation work. And three, an agreement for ongoing maintenance of the installation with an organization representing local users is in place. And you recall, these are all items that have come up in previous discussions about this, but I thought it might be good for us to have this on the record. So I'll ask for mover and seconder.
I'll move it.
I'll
Thank you.
second.
Councillor Gore Matthews, seconded by Councillor McEwen. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just a comment if I could.
Go ahead.
Just so folks are aware that in our forecast capital budget and special projects for 2022, we have $15,000. So that speaks, I'd say, to the significance of this project and the interest council has in supporting these folks around the lakes and improving their accesses and docking points at the lakes. So I just wanted to have that on the record. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good comment.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, in terms of this, obviously, there were 130 signatures. I think council made the decision that they were going to put in a dock at Gooseneck. And in terms of this motion, I'm in agreement with the first paragraph and number 2 and 3. I think number 1 is just going to push it off into whatever land, where, you need to do a study, to determine the number of people, et cetera, going to use the dock, et cetera. I don't think we need to do that in terms of the Gooseneck dock. I think 1 or 2 and 3 are fine, but I think staff should do a study of all our boat launches. That's fine, they can do that. And so number 1 is fine, but I don't think it's necessary for Gooseneck Lake. I think that all that will do is slow it up. It won't be done this year. While we sit and debate all our other launches. And so I don't support number 1 being in there. I think it's just a method to stall everything. And I don't believe was the intention of council. So I'm not supportive of number 1. I'm supportive of number 1 when it comes to other boat launches and studying them and the needs, et cetera, there. But I think we've made the decision with respect to Gooseneck. So I don't think we need to go out and study all these things. When we did the dock at Whitestone and Dunchurch, we didn't do the Astra dock I'm talking. We didn't do a needs study. We just wanted a dock there, and that's what we did. And people are using it, but we didn't go through some elaborate needs study. I think there was more rigor to Wawashkesh and what was done up there, but I just don't feel it's necessary at Gooseneck. So those are my thoughts on it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Are there any other comments?
Mr. Mayor, if I could just follow up a little bit
Go ahead.
on my previous reason I mentioned our interest in these locations and Gooseneck in particular was for that very reason. I think the last 3 bullets are the most significant. The first one, I don't think it means a whole lot personally in my mind. we'll be lucky to get permits and such and be able to do something this year, the way ministries work anyways, but I don't think the beginning actually takes away from the significance of the dock contingent upon the following prerequisites. Anyway, it's unless it's the first bullet number 1, Councillor Lamb was referring to. I thought he was referring to the intro.
No, I was referring, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. No, I was referring to number 1. I don't have a problem. It's in the budget. The money is there. I think we do need to do 2 and 3. We've got to get any permits that are required to put the dock in. I think we also need to make sure that we have an agreement. I think the people on, I thought it was McGee Road or something, it said they would work with us in maintaining that dock, etc. But I just don't think, I think number 1, a complete needs study. I think we've already made the decision that we want a dock there. So I don't see how we need a needs study. All it's going to do is push it down the road. You're now going to get the cottage association out there going. They'll all come up. Like being there before. They're in many cases they're not for a dock out there because they look at it, I think, as their lake kind of. And I think this is just going to play into this thing going on and on. So I don't think we need number 1. I think we need to get on with doing what we can to get a dock at Gooseneck this year. And so I'm primarily concerned only with number 1. So thank you.
Okay, I guess just by way of explanation, the wording was intended to reflect a sort of a general approach to how we would do these things. It's not intended to, and it's not in any way intended to delay it or suggest that there's an open question as to whether or not there should be a dock there. But if you recall the earlier discussions that we had about this, there was quite a bit of concern about the configuration of the landing itself, how difficult it is to launch there. And what I thought we had agreed, and there were also questions around whether or not it would be appropriate to permit swimming off the dock and so on. And what I thought we had agreed, not agreed, but by consensus had come to the conclusion that our works department, as soon as the spring conditions are appropriate for that, would go out and have a look at it and would come back and say, okay, here's what we think really needs to be done. Here's how the dock's going to be attached to the shore and so on. So that's I think the only aspect of the particular needs study that I would be concerned about. What everyone has to appreciate, though, and that's the main reason this motion is here, is that once that happens, the municipality and the municipality knows what it wants to do exactly in terms of shore works and attachment of the dock and so on. We then have to go to the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry and get and apply for a Crown land use permit. And as Councillor Lamb alluded, this is not a quick process. It should be, but it isn't. And our experience has been that they take quite some time. And it's also possible, depending on what is necessary to what other things might be wanted. Like, for example, if someone said, well, there should be a small area for swimming or something of this sort, apart from the dock, then that might require some in-water work. And that then goes through another approval process with MNR and Fisheries and Oceans Canada. And those things, in our experience, can take quite a lot of time. And so my concern was that that the folks who I worked hard to request this from us, don't get the idea that somehow when May 3rd, the budget's approved, all of a sudden a dock's going to appear there. Municipality would have to do these other things, and they may take some time. So, I mean, we can hope for the best, but it's not going to be an immediate process.
I guess,
Whether we pass the motion or not, right? I mean, this is the reality about what is actually in fact going to happen. I would say so. That was the concern I was trying to address.
Yeah, and through Mr. Mayor, I don't have a problem with what you said. If it's a matter of our roads department and whatever going out and saying, yeah, here's where the dock should go. We had discussions on swimming. I think the conclusion was we didn't want a swim area at the end of the dock because there'd be too much risk. So I think that this was sort of a day use dock. And if it's just a matter of the roads department going out and saying, yeah, it can be put here, and here's the needs, now let's move on and go, get the required permits, etc. I don't mind that. What I have trouble with is the first part of number 1 that says staff complete a needs study for Gooseneck Lake boat launch. Those words bother me because what are you going to do? Like, you're going to see how many people go there? How are you going to determine a needs study? 130 signatures up there is enough of a needs study in my mind. We don't have to have staff time going out and doing a needs study. The rest of the stuff is fine. Hopefully you can appreciate where I'm coming from here. We don't need to put boogeymen in front of this beyond, if we need Crown land use permits, we need to get them. I think the maintenance of the dock will come together fairly quickly. So as long, I don't want to prolong it, by saying, here's a document about all our boat launches and discussions on them and whatever, and get Gooseneck caught up in that. And therefore, there's no way the dock goes in even near the latter part of this year. So those are my thoughts, and hopefully I've made them clear. Thank you.
So how are you asking to amend? Do you want item 1 to simply stay staff investigate size of parking area, or all, I don't know, size of parking area required and upgrades required to roads and or shoreline? Is that?
Well, I think we've got enough parking at Gooseneck, as far as I know. I don't think anyone's saying we should be increasing the parking lot or whatever. I don't know how to word it, but
Well, I
agree with what you're saying. It's just,
Mr. Mayor, I did the second of the motion. I would be happy to go back to staff investigating and determining size of parking area, upgrade required to the road and shoreline, and investigate this feasibility of swimming there also. Like, that's one that's not in there. I think that's an important one from what I've heard from people back that way. It's not a suitable place to swim the way it presently sits, and maybe it can be modified to give a nice little swimming area. Maybe Mr. Woods would like to put his comment on that.
All right. Well, I'll take comments from others so that we don't just have a
yeah,
and we're not having a debate.
Mr. Mayor.
And Councillor Woods.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I was trying to jump in there. As far as it goes, I mean, all of our launches, I think all of us are in agreement that, we should be looking into what we can do to upgrade them and whatnot. I thought we made the decision on Gooseneck. As far as, not swimming off the end of the dock, no, we're not going to encourage it. I don't think anybody wants that. But the reality is, any body of water that we have, kids are going to go swimming and people are going to go swimming where they can get access to the water, whether there's a dock there or not. There's a great amount of people that go swimming there. It is a bit of a pain in the butt when someone's trying to launch a boat and people got to come out of that area if they got small kids in the shallows. But as far as expanding parking areas and having a full report done on it, I think we're going over the top. I mean, over 130 people signed a petition. They would like to see a dock. It's a simple floating dock. As far as I know, we have a land use permit for that area, and we own the shoreline, I thought. As far as permits go, we don't get permits for floating docks from the ministry. A basic floating dock would be simply a building permit, would it not? Or do I have that completely wrong?
Well, okay, first of all, the only land use permit is a permit for the, what I'll refer to as the expanded parking area, which was put there a couple of years ago. The actual landing itself is just on Crown land, for which we do not have, like, the area where you would launch a boat and the dock would go, would not, we don't have a land use permit. It's not our property and we don't have a land use permit. The issue of, so I mean, we would have to get the land use permit so that we're not putting a dock on a property that where our our bylaws would not apply, and we're not on somebody else's property in effect. I think this would be, we would have a problem in getting insurance on something like that. But for the other thing that was discussed was that in order to position a dock properly and make the boat launch safe, there might very well need to be some actual shore work, and that's what the shore work is for. Or if you wanted to put some sand at a swimming area, for example, off to it would be the east side of the particular piece of property, the side away from Ardbeg, then you would, that's why those things might be required. And we talked about this when the subject first came up, and that, of course, our staff have to wait until the snow is gone and so on, until they can go and take a look and see what makes sense to do that. So that's why this first paragraph is here. I don't honestly know I don't think we really can say we know exactly what needs to be placed there at this moment in time. So that's not to make it unnecessarily complicated, but not to trivialize it either and say, oh well, all you have to do is buy a dock and stick it out there somewhere. So that's
Sorry.
that's my response to your comment. I don't think we could. There is some due diligence required on our part before we can do it, and this would apply, of course, to any other landing that we would do this at. That's the same process that we would follow. I realize in the past it hasn't always been followed, but this is, when we're installing a municipal asset there, we have to take these things into consideration. Anyway, is there anything else? Sorry?
If I could say another thing,
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I know there is 2 pins there. Like, I frequent that launch regularly throughout the year. There is 2 pins there that you could attach, whatever you would need for the floater. As far as the easterly portion, I guess you're talking when you would drive down to the boat launch, not back down. It would be on your right hand side. I couldn't see a swimming area be put in there. No sand being put in there. Not without. I mean, there's a lot of reeds and weeds and whatnot in there. It's probably spawning area for bass and whatnot. I've seen quite a few bass in there. So I don't think there'd be a swimming area in there. It's just, I think what the majority of people had wanted to see out there was just a floating dock with a platform anchored to the shoreline, to make it a little bit easier to get in and out of boats and make it a little bit safer for everyone. And I've seen a sketch. I could see if I could find it again. That I swore we owned the shore allowance there right at the launch. So I don't understand why we wouldn't just simply get a building permit to install a floating dock.
Well, my information is that we own the road that, the driveway that goes down to the landing, but once we get onto it's only I think it's like a concession road or something that's there. It's not a conventional shore road allowance that goes all the way around. Otherwise, we would not have run into this issue with the parking and so on beforehand. It would have come out of this, if that were the case, then the parking area would have come out of the 66 feet. So anyway, that's once again, I guess going back to Councillor McEwen's comment, when the delegation came, people were saying we wanted to a lot of folks are saying, well, we want it for swimming. And you know, I mean, I guess if it isn't really an area that is suitable for swimming, then I don't know. You know, that again gets would affect how many people are likely to use it, I suppose. But anyhow, again, I think if you want, we can cut back on the verbiage, you know, that suggests that there's going to be a major study done, if that's what your concern is.
Mr. Mayor.
I don't want to prolong this. This is simply just
Yeah,
a,
I know.
you know,
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
I think we're all around. I don't think we're that far apart on this thing. All we're saying is we don't want to wait until, you know, Michelle and staff go out and do a road or do a needs study at all our boat launches. That's going to take a long time, right? And this is conditional on this. You know, I think we're taking two things, all the other boat launches and Gooseneck, and lumping them all in together. And I don't think that's what we should be doing. I think we've made the decision with respect to Gooseneck. It's in the budget. So we need to proceed to do whatever is necessary to put the dock out there. And that doesn't include a needs study. We're beyond that, right?
well,
So
could I just,
so I would just suggest that if you want a separate motion on doing a needs study, et cetera, at other boat launches, that's fine. But with respect to Gooseneck, all we need to do is have an area assessed by our roads supervisor and come back with suitable recommendations, right? And then if we need permits, we get them. Like, it's something simpler than this.
all right, okay. How about this? Let me propose something to you so we can wrap this up. Is that staff, let's just say investigate the site to determine parameters such as, you know, upgrades required to roads and or shoreline, something like that. Is that okay if we just take the
Sure.
rest of the stuff out? Staff?
Sure, that's good for
Okay,
me.
I'll just let me write that down a little bit and see if we can. I should actually be asking the mover and
Well, you can also
And-
put in at the end that direction to staff to look at all the other boat launches in terms of all those other things, like
all right, well,
that's
we'll
already
make that a
spoken.
separate part, so it's not, so that it's not in.
Yeah.
I wanted to get the Gooseneck one first. It's staff can investigate the site of the Gooseneck boat launch. And I'll take out and other public lake access points in the municipality, all that stuff. To determine such as I'll take out volumes of anticipated use. We don't need to do that. Size of parking area required, upgrades required to roads and or shoreline. How about that? So what, number one would say, staff investigate, I'll investigate the site of the Gooseneck Lake boat launch to determine parameters such as size of parking area required and upgrades required to roads and or shoreline. And that, is that okay? We leave it there?
I don't think it's got anything to do with parking, but anyway.
All right, you want to take the parking out? Investigate. Okay, we'll make it even shorter. Investigate upgrades required to roads and or shoreline.
Perfect.
And they can consider whether they're investigate. Oh, sorry, I need the to determine to be still there. Ross, too much stuff here. All right, I'm going to read it to you again. Part number I, staff investigate the site of the Gooseneck Lake boat launch to determine upgrades required to roads and or shoreline. Is that okay with the mover and seconder?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I was actually going to suggest something similar to what Councillor Lamb suggested, was that, you know, we do our due diligence with Gooseneck as part of this motion, but then we need another motion that we really need a needs study of all of our landings as well, as a separate issue, not as
Yeah,
part of this issue.
I think this should be a separate motion. Yeah,
Yes.
and I can give you that one in a second. That's mover was, you're the mover, Councillor Gorman Matthews, seconder was
Yes.
Councillor McEwen. Are you okay with what we have now, Councillor McEwen?
Is he?
A gremlin must have muted me. I'm okay with that. Thank you.
All right, so is there any further discussion about this motion with the three pieces that we've got as we've got them now? Are you ready for the question? Anyone opposed? Okay, I don't hear anybody, so I'm going to declare that carried. So, and what I'll do now is I'll just pull up a blank motion here, and my suggestion for this one, if this works for you, would be that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone direct staff to, well, let's pick up the pieces that we took out of this one to complete a needs study for other public lake access points in the municipality for which needs have not already been assessed, because I want to take out, you know, the main site at Whitestone and the Wawashkish one, because we've done those, and this one, okay, because this Gooseneck one, because let's say we've done those for the sake of argument. And then leave the rest of the wording to determine, in other words, to determine parameters such as volumes of anticipated use, size of parking area, and upgrades required to roads and shoreline, and report back to council at a future meeting. Would someone like to move that and second that?
I'll move, Councillor Woods.
Thank you, Councillor Woods.
I'll
Seconded by,
second it. Councillor Lamb, I'll second it.
thank you, Councillor Lamb. Is there any further discussion about this? Are you ready for the question? Anyone opposed? All right, thank you very much. We're working through this. Okay, that brings us, if I can move my agenda forward a little bit here, that brings us to a public meeting, if I'm not mistaken. Apologize, I am just moving my screen forward to get through a whole bunch of slides to get to the public meeting. All right, so this is item number 9. Can you confirm that I haven't missed anything along the way here, Madam Clerk? You Good?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we're ready to move to the public meeting.
All right, then. I will ask for a motion to move into a public meeting, please.
I'll move, Council McEwen.
Thank you, Councillor McEwen, seconded by
I'll second.
I'll
Councillor Woods.
second.
Okay, I got Councillor Woods first. Thank you. We move into a public meeting at 7, looks like 51 p.m. Anyone opposed to that motion? Okay, we are now in a public meeting, and I will call that public meeting to order. Once again, our protocol is that I introduce council and staff, the councilors present. Councillor Joe Lamb, Councillor Beth Gorham Matthews, Councillor Joe McEwen, Councillor Brian Woods, and myself, Mayor George Comrie. Our staff are Michelle Landry, our CAO clerk, our fire chief, Bob Whitman, our treasurer, Barb Cribbett, and Ron Jackson is not here anymore, so I don't think I missed anybody. We'll again ask if anyone has a pecuniary interest in the matter to discuss, which is the proposed rezoning of the property owned by 12728-141 Canada Incorporated on Highway 124. All right, no pecuniary interest declared.
Highway 520, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, Highway 520. We just got to upgrade to the highway there for the folks in the Ardbeg area. All right. I will I'll ask our clerk to take a roll call of the guests and visitors who are in attendance. We do have a few folks here, and I'll ask our clerk, do you want to identify or try to identify the folks who are listed by names like iPad 2 Linda and iPhone 3 Jim? And I see we have Larry Watkinson and Taylor Clark from the North Star, and then I see a couple of phone numbers and a call-in user 1. Do you want to try to identify who those folks are or not? For the record.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Certainly Zoom will take a screenshot of that listing. And if the folks that have just a phone number showing would like to let us know who they are, they can unmute and we can record them for the record.
I think I recognize, is that Scott Nash's phone number that I recognize there? Maybe?
Hello, Mr. Mayor, it's Scott Nash.
I thought I saw recognize your number.
Mr. Mayor, Jeff Bray and Nancy Bray.
Oh, okay, thank you. I was expecting that you would be here. Thank you. Right. Any others? I guess if you don't identify yourself and decide to stay anonymous, then when you go to speak, you will still have to identify yourself. Just a couple of words of kind of instruction before we start. First of all, could I ask that if you are not speaking, you mute your phone?
Good.
See, Mr. Jackson is still here. I'm sorry. I said he wasn't, but I see he's reconnecting. So, sorry, we missed him in the introductions. And so please, the public is permitted to speak during this meeting. I'll ask that you address any comments through me, and that you state your name before you speak. The just some formalities. The application is by 12728-141 Canada Incorporated, and you heard Jeff and Nancy Brave, who introduced themselves a minute ago, are the proponents behind that company. It's what is proposed is an amendment to the zoning bylaw to rezone part of lots 33 and 34, concession 1 in the geographic township of Mackenzie, fronting on Highway 520 from the rural zone to a general commercial exception zone. We have on record, and it's in your package, a letter of, it says a letter of support. It was a letter, had some qualifications to it, I guess, but from Scott and Jennifer Nash, dated March 28th, 2022. And I will now ask the clerk if any letters or other correspondence have been received.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did receive one letter, and that was from a letter of support from Scott and Jennifer Nash, dated March 28th, 2022, and that was included in the package.
Okay, thank you. So that's the only letter that we have.
That's correct.
All right, so I will then ask our planner who has rejoined us, John Jackson, to present his report on this application and any other introductory comments he wants to make. John?
Thank you, Worship. Actually, I missed this on the agenda. The application was for a sort of multiple purpose commercial rezoning, which was not necessarily correctly perceived initially by a number of agencies, but the ultimate bottom line was it's a very small scale application. And once we sorted it out, the MTO seemed to have no difficulties, although originally they wanted their typical stormwater management assessment, traffic impact assessment, et cetera. But my sense is that it's a very low impact kind of application. And now that they're on board, I don't see a difficulty with what they're proposing with respect to the uses that they have in this application.
Okay, thank you. I guess the next, I should give the applicants the next opportunity to speak. Jeff and Nancy, do you want to have any comments you want to make to begin with, or do you just want to wait until see what questions people ask? Or
Mr. Mayor, I I really don't have very much to say about it other than, it's fairly straightforward. It's been it's been used commercially for the better part of 20 years by the municipality for dumping of ditch waste, as well as landing spots for the contractors doing the work to the 520. So I don't, I'm really not sure about this process. I don't think that there should be any question or issue with regard to rezoning it to general commercial. I'm happy to answer any questions that people will come up with, but I really don't know that there's going to be a lot of questions.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. And you will have the opportunity, if people ask questions that you can answer, then we'll give you the opportunity to address them. Over to councillors. Do you have for questions or comments on this application?
Mr. Mayor, Councilor McEwen.
Go ahead, Councillor McEwen.
Yeah, I support this application. I think it's generally very good use of that property, which has been kind of a pit scenario, open combination of a lot of turf there. Seems to me there was even a ball field in that property one time years ago. I guess my only question would be, Mr. Jackson, are there any objections or issues with neighboring folks around that property?
Go
Through
ahead,
you.
John. If you...
Yes, through you, Your Worship, I don't believe there have been any concerns expressed by neighbors. Initially, as I indicated, there were some MTO concerns when they did their sort of typical reaction to anything that goes on the highway. But once they understood the nature of it, the Brays kind of got them to back off. And so I'm not aware of any concern.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Gorham Matthews.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I did reach out and have a discussion with the owner of the property across the road that has their resort. There is a campground across from this property that has a number of trailers and that type of activity that people come up for peace and quiet. And his only concern was noise. I don't think there would be noise from the storage aspect. They liken the storage area in the application to the one in Magnanawan, and I drive by that all the time, and it's pretty much always empty. I don't think there will be any disruption to the people camping across the road from that. There was more of a concern about noise that might come from some of the other activities, and if there was anything that could be done with the site plan to mitigate or minimize noise that might disturb the solitude that people come to expect from staying at a resort in Ardbeg.
Okay, thank you. Other comments? Well, I had, I did have, I guess, a couple of questions. I noticed on the original sketch that the applicant provided, there was a suggestion that a piece, and that would be towards the western end, the Ardbeg end of the property, the part that's treed, I guess, the suggestion that there might be a piece severed from there. I'm curious as to what the intention of that would be. I guess I'm also kind of curious that the lists for, we have in Mr. Jackson's report, a reduced list that is proposed for the C1 exception, a reduced list of uses. But the first one on there is a dwelling, and I'm curious as to why that one would be included. I'm assuming the applicants are not intending to live there or to build or to build a house, but if the area is zoned, if this area is in fact zoned commercial, and then at a later date, you decide you're wanting to sever the whole entire thing, so, or wanting to rezone this whole entire thing. If you later decide to sever a piece, it's not going to be for residential use, right? So, and maybe that's, so I'm just wondering if there's, it's not clear to me what the intent is behind including those things. So I don't know whether Mr. Jackson, you can comment, or whether the applicants want to comment.
Through you, your worship, the normal protocols are that a accessory use includes a dwelling, so that it's there for a obvious kind of associated or attendant use as part of the commercial use. I don't know that the Braves have any intention. I don't know that we've ever discussed about the possibility of any land divisions, so that's not before the municipality in terms of this application. So it's simply at some point, if someone were to want a dwelling, it would be an accessory use where it would be part of the business on the property.
Okay. But am I right in saying that once the whole thing is zoned commercial, if you then go later on, I'm kind of curious as to what sort of a severance, other than to sever it for a separate commercial, a piece for a separate commercial property, that's all, that's presumably all you would be able to do with it, right? The principal use would still be commercial, no?
Exactly, and a future severance on the property would bring on a much more robust kind of assessment by not only the municipality, but by the MTO. So it brings with it an entirely new set of assessments that aren't really relevant to this application.
Okay. Well, thank you. I don't know, do the applicants have any comment on that, on just what the intent was behind the note possible future severance?
Mr. Mayor, we're considering building a home in there as a residential. It'll be a residential home attached to the commercial property, so that we can manage the storage business rather than our current setup. So as far as putting in, it would be a dwelling. I would not be putting in another commercial building in there for any reason.
But that dwelling would be on the main property, though. You don't need a severance to do that, based on what Mr. Jackson just said. I'm just curious about the reference to a severance, which severance means you've cut off a piece of the property that you're going to sell to somebody else, right?
Okay. As far as I'm concerned, it would be, if it was being severed off, it would be so that I could retain my home, and I could sell the commercial lot if we decided to get out of the storage business. Do you follow what I'm saying?
I follow what you're saying. This sort of thing has has caused controversy in the past in the municipality. I guess that would be my comment. I would not, if I were you, this is just a comment off the cuff, so to speak. I mean, I wouldn't contemplate, building a house on it and later on severing the house unless I'm misreading the size of the property and everything. There might be, I don't know. Mr.
Okay.
Jackson, do you have a comment on that based on our past experience with this kind of thing?
As I indicated, and as a matter of right, he can build a house as part of the commercial compound, so to speak. But if he would like to separate the commercial use from the residential use that he would build, it would be assessed at that time as a principal use. So as he can automatically have a dwelling as part of the commercial use, that doesn't carry forward on the possible severance. He'd have to go through a rezoning, a consent application, and a possible consequence with MTO, where if they were of a mind that said that a second entrance wouldn't be available, it could be a showstopper in that sense. So there's a whole set of different screenings that might occur in respect of separating the property for a principal residential use. Not saying that it won't be possible. I'm just saying it's a separate assessment process.
Okay, so this is something that we would, cross that bridge when we came to it.
I think that's a pretty good way to put it, Mr. Ray. Yes.
Yeah, it's possible. It's not imminent.
It's not a guarantee. That's correct. Through your worship.
Okay, well, that's all. I was mostly just trying to get as good a sense as I can about what what your intentions are, so that we know, we kind of have as good an idea as we can of what may happen with this in the future. But it's always possible to address changing plans down the road. Are there other comments from members of council on this particular application?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Lamb, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, very quickly. I'm supportive of this. I congratulate the Braves, and hopefully will pass this and get on with them operating a new business in the community. And we always like the extra tax dollars that come in from this too. So I want to thank you for that. So, and I think also, I think that there is a need for storage in our community. As people go on, they get more and more toys and ATVs and snowmobiles and boats and everything else. And so storage is badly needed. So I congratulate you, and I will be fully supportive of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from councilors? Any other comments from members of the public who might be on the call? Okay, well, if there is nothing further, thanks. We can entertain a motion to reconvene into the regular meeting again.
I'll move, Councilor McEwen.
Thank you, Councillor McEwen, seconded by,
I'll second, Councilor Woods.
thank you, Councillor Woods. All right. So we are at 8:14 PM. Is there anyone opposed to this motion? Hearing none. That motion is carried. There's a note that says matters arising for the public meeting, but I think we get to that when we have the bylaws. So that will take us then to our consent agenda. Whereas the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone has reviewed the consent agenda consisting of regular council meeting minutes for March 15th, 2022, special council meeting minutes for March 22nd, 22, Whitestone Public Library and Technology Center board minutes dated February 22nd, 2022, and the list of unfinished business on page 4 of your agenda. Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone hereby approves the council meeting minutes of March 15th, 2022 and March 22nd, 2022, and receives for information all other items contained in the consent agenda dated April 5th, 2022.
I'll move.
Councilor.
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
Thank you. Councilor Matthews moves and Councillor McEwen seconds. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, just one comment. See a little error on page 74 of the agenda. That's the regular draft minutes, I believe. 12.1, bylaw 16, 2022 being a bylaw. And it references Hagerman Township on line 2, geographic township of Hagerman, and is actually in Mackenzie.
Anderson Patterson? Which one was, oh, that's Dubois Trail. You're right. That is in. Thank you.
Yeah. It's correct. No, it's correct down the page, but it's just Hagerman slipped in there instead of Mackenzie as a township of up near the top.
It's in the title of the.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
anyway,
okay, yeah, it's a minor. Thank you very much. That's a minor
little typo.
topo, but I'll ask our clerk to make a note of that. Did you get that?
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. That can be an administrative correction. We'll take care of that.
All right. Anything else from the consent agenda? If not, I will ask then if is anyone opposed to this approving the consent agenda? All right, thank you. That motion is carried. And again, there are no matters arising from it. Item 11 is accounts payable. Just trying to bring that one up. Got to get a mover and seconder, please, that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone receive for information the accounts payable listing in the amount of $374,700 $178.02 for the period March 15th, 2022 to March 31st, 2022.
I'll move it.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb, seconded by,
I'll second, Councillor Woods.
thank you, Councillor Woods. Any discussion, any questions or comments about any of the payables that are on that list?
Yeah, I just have one quick comment. On page 88, Moore propane. At one point, we talked about going out and testing our propane rates per liter against and going out to market. Can I just ask where we stand with respect to that? Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, thank you for the question, Councillor Lamb. We do, an RFP was issued for the supply of propane and associated services. I would have to check with our public works manager because this was his project as to whether it's closed yet, but it would be very close to closing if it hasn't. So there'll be an evaluation process done and a report back to council within the next couple of meetings, I expect.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments on payables? If not, is there anyone opposed to receiving them for information? All right. This brings us to staff reports, item 12.1. And 12.1 has to do with the Whitestone swim program. So I'll ask for a mover and seconder that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone hereby receive report admin -2022-07 for information, and that staff be requested to proceed with hiring a program supervisor and an instructor for the Whitestone swim program to be held July 4th to 22nd, 2022. Would someone move that? Second, please.
I'll move it.
Councillor Gorman Matthews moves, seconded by,
I'll second.
Councillor Woods.
Councillor Woods.
okay, Councillor Woods, I heard first, so. All right, I'll ask if our CAO has any comments on her report first, and then we'll take questions and comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a fairly brief report. I looked at our neighboring municipalities to see if there was an opportunity for collaboration. Not so in Magnetawan. Their program is run by the Lions Club. It's got a long-standing history, and they do their own program there. I looked and had conversations with McKellar. At first, I thought there was a possibility of a collaboration, but they tend to do swimming programs the same time we do. So the idea of having a shared swim instructor didn't really work out. And if that's the case, then we might as well run our own program. What we don't have here is someone to manage the program, to organize the program, supervise someone that has knowledge of swimming lessons and all the safety protocols and how to hire an instructor and, you know, all the aspects of the program. So that's why there's a need for a supervisor, someone that can have oversight of the program, obviously a mature adult, someone that has knowledge of swimming and all the instruction methods, and that person will assist in hiring the instructor, and they will both be on site during the course of the 3 weeks. So we thought we would give that a try. We know that there are some swim instructors out there because Parry Sound is no longer lifeguarding their beach. So there's a sense that there's a few more people available than there has been in the past. And I'm hopeful that we'll find an adult that has knowledge of swim programs that can assist with the supervisory control of the program so that it carries forward. The only question I have of council, and I believe I know the answer, but I don't want to assume or speak for council, and that is the program fees. The Lions Club ran the program previously at no cost, and I didn't know what council's desire was in regard to the program that's being run by Whitestone. And just for comparison, I included in the report the fees that McKellar charges for a swim program. So that's my report, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Councillor Lamb.
Yeah, well, I wonder if we might hear from Councillor Gorham Matthews. Obviously, she's been involved in this for a long time. And, my first reaction to this, I can tell you, was we need a supervisor and a instructor for a 3-week program. It seemed to me like a little bit overkill. I don't think we've ever had that before. Not saying it's not necessary, but it hit me as overkill. So, but I'd sure like to hear from Gorham. There she is. Hello. Thank you.
I was going to comment on that. Yeah, so what we had traditionally done is we helped with registration and help the teacher organize the blocks of time. We didn't normally have someone on site during the lessons. Now I'll say that during the last time that we ran the lessons, there were a couple incidents between the instructor and some parents where the instructor could have used some adult support in terms of if there was a supervisor or a Lions member there to back them up. We did have a very young instructor the last time that we were able to run the lessons, and maybe it was just lack of maturity and able to deal with conflict, but we did have a little bit of issue the last time that we ran the lessons. So I can see some value in having a support system for the student, but I don't know if we need to pay a supervisor. Maybe we can just get some parents that are going to be part of the lessons. If they have 2 different age groups of kids and they're going to be there all morning, perhaps they can be our support system. So that's what I would say about it. We didn't provide a lot of support in terms of while the lessons were on.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to speak to that, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Please go ahead.
Notwithstanding the fact that our office is right beside where the swimming lessons take place, we just don't have the staff that have the knowledge, including myself, in regard to managing a swim programming. If there's an issue with the instructor, from time to time we can help out, but there's a lot that goes into organizing this. And I know that the Lions Club did this for many years. We're starting from scratch, and there truly is nobody in our organization currently that has knowledge of swim programs and that has the ability to organize this, manage it. In my mind, there's a lot of outreach to parents, getting things organized, and I do recognize that there are safety issues, and yes, there's parents there, but ultimately this is a municipality of Whitestone swim program, and I would not be comfortable simply asking parents to take some responsibilities that they may or may not want to do, or they may not be able to do, or will they be there during all of the lessons. There really has to be someone that has oversight. of the program, and whether they're there each and every day for every hour, I suppose that's up to council, but I just want it to be clear that the office staff have a different role and a different book of business that they're taking care of, especially, in the summer, and we have vacations, and during that 3 weeks, it's really important, and that the safety of the families at the beach and the safety of the children that are getting their lessons, and all of the paperwork and documentation that has to be done behind the scenes as well, has to be managed. We're kind of jumping into this blind. We really need someone that knows what they're doing. There's not a person here, and I'm repeating myself, that can reasonably organize a swim program and have oversight of it. We can do the advertising, that's not a problem. We can do the communications, but managing all the registrations, organizing the parents and the kids, and I'm adamant that there has to be some safety at the beach, because it gets really busy, and the parents that are there watching, they're not necessarily watching their kids, they're enjoying the social time with other parents and with other children that are in the area. So it may feel like overkill, and at the end of the 3 weeks, we may decide it was overkill, but I feel like we're starting from scratch to develop a program and organize it. You really need the supervisory control, and then the student that's going to do the lessons.
Okay, thank you. Are there other comments or questions?
Mr. Mayor, question of Madam CEO.
Go ahead.
The supervisor and the instructor, could that be tied in with, say, our summer staff somehow? Would be an extension of some of their time, or an extra part of a person to complement our summer student staff?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we actually haven't got a lot of reaction to our ad for summer students, but it's still early. The summer students we typically hire, we don't ask if they have qualifications for teaching swimming lessons. And we certainly don't have students hired that would have some supervisory and organizational responsibility, and the ability to do all the documentation and track, who's passed what level. And if I'm not mistaken, it's no longer Red Cross. It's is it the Life Saving Society? That's going to be, that manages these programs now. So I don't know if that's a good solution. The other students are either cutting grass or managing traffic, and that's the busy time of year for the roads department as well, especially with cutting grass and string trimming. So I don't believe we could take one of those students, even if they did have the qualifications, away to manage the swim program and leave the public works department and the landfills without the staffing they need.
It just seemed tricky to me to hire someone for 3 weeks. But anyway,
Mayor?
that's.
Councillor Gorman Matthews.
Yeah, so Councillor McEwen is highlighting a challenge that we do have when recruiting a student to run the lessons, is that it is just a summer job for 3 weeks for basically 3 to 4 hours a day. So we did actually pay them quite well to try and get someone. And, I like the idea of trying to share with McKellar. It might give us a better opportunity of attracting a student. We have struggled in the past to get an instructor. It's not an easy thing. And with no pool in town, any kids that are interested in getting that type of certification have to travel to Bracebridge or be from out of town. A lot of times we've hired students that have a cottage on Whitestone Lake, and they're up here for the summer, and they use this as their summer job and get to spend their summer at their cottage. So it is a challenge to find a qualified instructor. So if we could loop it in with McKellar and maybe change our hours, that may be something we have to consider as well.
Well, I wonder if perhaps if I could ask our CAO, was there any discussion about the possibility of using the McKellar instructors, but having ours in August instead of in July, for example, or running, like, what do they do about this problem that Councillor Gorham Matthews has just articulated?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. They, McKellar runs 2 3-week programs, not just one. And they like to do it in July and early August. And we should definitely do our program well before the middle of August. We don't want to start at the beginning of August and run 3 weeks. Our families want the program in July, and that's the messaging I'm getting from McKellar and what I hear in Magnetawan. In August, people are about mid-August, people are starting to go home. Their vacation is over. They're getting ready for school. So we really need to plan the program in July, where it's the lake is the warmest. And it didn't really seem to work out with McKellar. They don't necessarily have supervise. What I heard from McKellar is the former treasurer, and this was before COVID, did some supervision of the program, but the program is actually run by the rec committee. So the rec committee comes out and does, I think, similar to what the Lions Club did. And they've been doing it for a lot of years, that they would have a measure of oversight. In my mind, it's not enough. McKellar offered to send one of their office staff over to Whitestone to supervise, but I discounted that idea. I didn't feel it was appropriate. We don't need McKellar staff working overseeing a swim program for Whitestone. They have enough to do, and I'm not even sure who it would be or what their qualifications are. I feel pretty strongly we want someone that's qualified, can organize the program, and maybe this will evolve into something else. And I do recognize that we don't have a lot of people on our rec committee that would want to do this, or that could do this. I think we need someone this year that's got to organize the program, figure out what we need and how it's going to be run. There may be a lot more kids here than have been here in previous years for swimming lessons. So we want to be available for that. And we want to start thinking about what registration is going to look like. And it may be more than 3 or 4 hours a day. I think they were teaching from 9 till 1. And then doing extra lessons if necessary. I think it was private lessons. So I'm not sure what else to add. It's definitely a new program for Whitestone. And as I said, we don't have the staff I don't have confidence that anyone on our staff has any knowledge of running or managing swing programs. And I definitely worry about the safety aspect of a young person. And you could very well get a high school student that has the qualifications, but probably doesn't have the skill set to manage a difficult situation if it occurs.
Mr. Mayor?
Okay, go ahead.
I don't want to take up too much time in this, but why does it have to be 2 people? Like, why can't, I'm not suggesting this, my wife ran pools for years, but why don't we just get a more mature person who can do both, can organize the program and give the lessons? I don't, why do we need 2? Right? So that would get rid of some of the problems of issues with parents or whatever, but I don't know. It just, and then I guess what we have to discuss, and I'll let others go first, is are we going to charge for this, or are we just going to do it free? So anyway, thank you.
I'd like to speak to that again.
You're muted, Madam CAO.
Sorry about that.
Go ahead.
Yeah. We may or may not get a mature person who's willing to work for, as Councillor Gorham Matthews said, 3 weeks. You may get a high school student who is wants to work for 3 weeks in July, they get out of school at the end of June, they want to work for 3 weeks in July and have August off. And then you have the challenge of who is going to supervise the high school student. And you would need somebody who knows swim programs, who has the supervisory capacity to have oversight of a program, to develop it, to do the registrations, to manage all the scheduling and the timelines. I'm not sure a high school student would do that. And I'm assuming that we would end up with a high school student as we have in the past.
Well, okay,
it's a challenge. It's a challenging program to start up and to make sure it works. And maybe next year, the result will be maybe we don't need 2 people. But my estimation is, unless Mr. Mayor, someone on the rec committee that would like to do the supervision and the organizing of the program and managing the registrations and scheduling, and have some oversight of the student, then I think it would work if in fact they had some qualifications. But otherwise, I can't offer up any qualifications within our current staff complement.
Okay, well, perhaps we could, I don't think we're going to resolve this particular issue right now because we don't have, we don't have the people that we would need to do this lined up. So we don't know sort of who's available. But what we do have is we have an amount of money in the budget. I think it was $6,500. And can I just get confirmation, please, that $6,500 assumes that there is no fee being collected from the participants? Is that a correct statement or?
That's correct. There's no revenue. There's no revenue source in our revenues in our budget for the swim program. So it's just an expense.
All right. So you have in your report a list of fees that McKellar charges. $50 per child for a 3-week session, $90 a family for a 3-week session. A family is. And so does that matter how many kids there are, or is that for 2? and then there's some other there's a fee for Aquafit and there's a fee for bronze level classes. But as I think there should be probably for that, but what is the thought of counselors? This has been free in the past. Should we be charging a nominal fee or an attempt to defray some of the costs of it, assuming we can make it happen as our CAO has described, or do we? What's your thought? What are your thoughts on that? Councillor Gorham Matthews.
I'd certainly support if we could try to do it free this year and see what the end costs end up being for the supervisor and the instructor. I think it's something that the families are looking forward to hopefully coming back this year in the community. They've missed it the last 2 years. Now the fees that McKellar charges are quite minimal, but if we could keep it free, I think it's a great asset to the community. And it's not just local kids. There's a ton of seasonal residents that use the program, as well as children from the teachers camp as well come. So it's widely used.
Okay. Somebody, Councillor McEwen, did I see your?
No, I was sitting pretty quiet, but I will comment, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Councillor Gordon Matthews. I think it's a very significant program if we're teaching our children to swim here in our own municipality. And, it's been a free one for a very, very long time. I know almost everyone you talk to around this area has benefited from it immensely, myself included, with my two children over the years. That goes back a long time.
Yeah.
So if we try to try it for 1 year and get a good feel for the number of kids we have. And I know traffic control this summer at the beach might be a big deal. Who knows how many we're going to get? Maybe we have to put some restrictions on it or something and limit it to, I know kids used to come from outside of Whitestone. Pardon me, not Whitestone in the day. My day, it was just Hagerman Township. But certainly Whitestone covers a very broad area, as does McKellar from McKellar's point of view from swim lessons, I think. So anyway, I'd be willing to support CAO and company moving forward to see if they can set it up for this summer.
Okay, others, any other comments?
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Go ahead, Councillor Woods.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Do we have any numbers on how many kids used it in the last time we ran the program? I mean, I know when I brought my boys there was a lot of kids, but do we have a number on about how many kids used it?
Councillor Gorham Matthews.
Yeah, each year there is generally between 40 to 60 kids, depending on the year.
Okay. To me, it's a program that no matter what, we have to figure out how to run this. I mean, up in our area with the amount of water bodies that we have, I think it's absolutely important that every kid, every person for that matter, but every kid learns how to swim and gets comfortable around the water. So I would support running this program.
Okay, thank you. Are there any final comments? We have the motion to approve this moved and seconded. And of course, the details will get worked out, and hopefully, we hope they'll get worked out. And I will investigate your with the rec committee and with others, the question that you asked, Madam CAO, so that we can see if we can find anybody who is willing to do this. But I mean, my inclination is probably to I have a hunch there might be a lot of demand for this, and maybe what we want is people who are experienced with these programs, and perhaps at some point maybe both of them will end up in the water, being in the water with instructing. I'm assuming, by the way, that we tend to try to have the beach, if the beach is occupied with lessons, so essentially it's not public swim during the mornings. And the afternoon is an opportunity for the public to come and swim, so they're not interfering with the lessons. Is that essentially the model we've followed in the past?
I can speak to that. Maybe Councillor Gorham can as well. Just from my observations, from my viewpoint from my office, and I would go out and watch the swim lessons. A lot of parents gathered on the beach, and a lot of activity on the beach as well, other than the swim lessons, because it's July and it's warm and people want to swim. So it was kind of, there was a separation. There was never any restriction that you can't publicly swim if in fact you're not part of the swimming lessons. So they worked, it was this kind of a symbiotic relationship. They worked hand in hand, but there were times when the beach was very, very busy. And of course the swimming lessons were over to one side, and depending on the age of the children and the activity, they would take up a small portion of the swimming area. But yes, there was always public swimming available, and certainly not at 9 o'clock in the morning, but by 10 or 11, families were starting to arrive that had nothing to do with the swim lessons.
And they were going in the water while the others are in the water, eh?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
It's
correct,
not,
Mr.
from
Mayor.
my perspective, looking at the times that I've watched what was going on there, it's not a huge beach, right? But anyway, never mind. That's not something to resolve tonight. I was just curious. Anyway, my own view is that I think we should do this. I'm not, if we were going to charge, it would be I would think it would be a very, very nominal charge, and maybe it's not worth at this stage in the game, unless we find that what we're doing is we're drawing people away from McKellar and Magnetawan because ours is free and theirs costs money, you know, but so I'm
But, Mr. Mayor, I mean,
Yeah.
if we're gonna invest the 6,500 and do it for free, and that's okay. Shouldn't we make it for Whitestone residents? Why could someone come from wherever, Perry Sound, and come out for swim lessons if they wanted to? Or for that matter, McKellar, because they don't want to pay the fee, say, oh, let's go over to Whitestone and use up their resources, right? Does that make any sense at all?
Counselor, I don't know, Counselor Gorham Matthews.
That wasn't an issue when we ran the lessons. Magnetowan's lessons are free as well. I think most people are inclined to want to use the beach that they're used to going to. And I believe that McKellar's lessons were well attended as well, even though they charge a small amount. Our registrations were mainly residents, and they were ratepayers, you know, seasonal and local people. So I don't think it was an issue of a lot of people coming just because our lessons were free.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anything further about this? I'd like to call the question, I think, if we can. Maybe I'll ask our CAO to, our clerk to call the roll, please.
Thank you. Counselor Gorham Matthews,
Yes.
Counselor Lamb,
Yes.
Counselor McEwen,
Yes.
Counselor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes,
Thank you. That motion is carried.
all right, thank you very much. Okay, that brings us to item 13, which is a bylaw related to the Braze application that we discussed previously in the public meeting. And so I will read the suggested motion and ask for a mover and seconder. The suggested motion is that bylaw 2020, sorry, there's just too many twos here. Bylaw 22-2022, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 07-2018 as amended to rezone part lots 33 and 34 concession 1 in the geographic township of Mackenzie, fronting on Highway 520 from the rural zone, RU, to a general commercial exception zone. It's a C1 exception. The applicants are 127284141 Canada Inc. Be read a first and second time this 5th day of April 2022, and further read a third time, passed and properly signed and sealed this 5th day of April 2022, and numbered bylaw 22-2022. Would someone like to move that, please?
I'll move it, Counselor Lamb.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. Is there a seconder?
I'll second. Councillor Woods.
Thank you. Any discussion? Any further discussion, that is? All right then, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll, please?
Well, Counselor Gorham Matthews,
Yes.
Counselor Lamb,
Yes.
Counselor McEwen,
Yes.
Counselor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes,
Thank you. That motion is carried.
thank you. So the next item on our agenda was a discussion concerning whether or not, but concerning resumption of in-person council meetings. And I guess we should have in this particular case, I guess we should have the discussion unless someone has a motion they want to bring. Councillor Lamb requested this at the last meeting, so. I don't know, Councillor Lamb, do you want to go first? And
Sure, I guess truly, I have not made any decision on this thing at this point. I've thought about it several times over the last couple of days. You know, these Zoom meetings have gone pretty well, and I'm not suggesting that we stick to only Zoom, but they've encumbered a lot of citizens who regularly wouldn't sit in the community center. And, you know, I can remember sitting for years in the community center, and in front of me would be Bob Whitman and Brian Woods and Rodney. That was about all for 95% of our meetings. And then of course some issue would bubble up, and there would be more people. So you know, I'm kind of a fan of Zoom. So I think the challenge is how you know, that's one side. The other side is COVID. I'm afraid, you know, that there's more COVID than obviously the government is making, is publicizing. I know lots and lots of people who have got COVID, and so I'm somewhat reluctant to put a lot of people in the community hall, but I don't think there will be a lot of people. So what am I saying? I think we need to move to open meetings. I think I would like to see them sort of socially distanced, you know, so that everyone's 6 feet apart. I don't know whether we require masks or not. That I'll leave that up to council. But I think it only should be done if we can have a good sense that we can run a Zoom meeting out of there, and so that we can have a hybrid model. So I don't know the answer to that and how we test that. You know, I thought, well, maybe the mayor and Michelle need to go into the community hall and run a meeting one time, and, you know, but as a test run and see if everything kind of sort of works out, right? But anyway, those are my thoughts. I really haven't decided if I was going to open it up or vote to open it up. It would be probably in, you know, I'm going to say the early part of June, which would give us another, you know, month and a half of meetings on Zoom. I guess it could be earlier than that, but anyway, those are my thoughts. We certainly have to move back to public meetings, and we need to do it safely. So that's, I guess, my thoughts on it. Thank you.
okay, thank you. Are there other comments or Councillor Gorham Matthews?
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Lamb that I see the need for us to get back in person. I know the town of Parry Sound, we were discussing this at our last Chamber of Commerce meeting, I believe, and they're waiting into May to make a decision. They kind of wanted to see how the mandates of lifting masks and such affected the numbers, and how things went from there before they went back to in person. You know, I'm fully supportive of going back to in person as long as we don't lose the Zoom platform. I agree that we've never had so much participation and input from ratepayers as what we have now. And it's encouraging to see people log in and join our meetings from home. So if we can find a way to, and I know it's in our budget for us to update and upgrade some equipment so that we can do Zoom from the community center. So maybe if we had a timeline on how long that project would take, that could help us form a decision as well.
Okay, thanks. Maybe, I was gonna wait till others have commented to jump in, but I just again want to make sure everybody understands. I mean, we can go back to face-to-face meetings at I mean, at any time. The problem is we cannot go to hybrid meetings, a hybrid meeting being a meeting where Zoom will operate effectively. So that, in other words, you can have people remotely and people in the room, and they can see and hear each other. We can't do that until we get some improvements to our internet access in the community center, and there's been quite a bit of work done on this, and there's some things going on in the background, but we still have some technical issues to resolve. Interestingly, there's some new options available for dealing with some of those. The project to make the thing into a sort of an ultimate setting for hybrid meetings is going to take quite a while. We don't necessarily have to wait for that, but we do have to. If you said that we want to have all of our future meetings in the community center, that would basically be the end of Zoom. So everybody who wants to participate is going to have to be there. Doesn't mean that they couldn't. I mean, it would be possible for us to stream the audio, and it would be possible so that people could listen to it, just as they can now. Of course, if they want to go on the website after the meeting, they can listen to it. But, you know, it's not the same thing at all, as far as people participating remotely from wherever they happen to be. And I personally would not want to lose that, but that's just my opinion. I guess the other opinion I have is that we would have to limit seating, and we would probably have to require people at this stage of the game. We'd have to require people to be masked, I think. I don't, you know, it's a closed room. Air conditioning's not bad, but, and you can manage all right if you have a small number of people in there. But then again, if you start getting a large number, it's, you know, everybody is going to be breathing whatever is being circulated by the air conditioning. So, you know, those are things to think about. Anyway, that's my, I'm not suggesting that that it's not an objective. I think it might be a rush to do it quickly. That's and we would lose something if we did it.
Now, Mr.
If we
Mayor,
did it quickly.
I don't know how many are actually on Zoom. I've been relegated almost to just audio. I know Councillor Woods, he has problems with Zoom also. We both live in a very touchy spot here. When I see the list of people and hear them coming on and off, most are by phone, I believe. I don't know what percentage, maybe 50-50, maybe 40% are on video. So if we had audio only from the community center, once we do open up, I'm not saying we open up right away. I agree with Councillor Lamb and you folks saying maybe June-ish is a better time. I have friends whose families have come down with COVID just in Parry Sound in the last week or two. Very, very disappointed and surprised. They were so excited that they could get together just with a few of their close family, and lo and behold, this happened to two different groups. So it's potentially out there. So I don't think we have to get in a real big rush in that sense. But a hybrid model would be wonderful if we can get to it. But as you're saying, it's going to take some time. So I'm not sure if I'm saying anything concrete, but comments.
No, that's a good comment. I only would, I just would want to point something out to you, that it's the problem of managing the meeting. Okay, so even if we have the meeting that we're in right now, just take a look at it. If you look at everybody here has a Zoom screen in front of them. They may not have video. They may not be operating video. In fact, right now, the only people operating video are Councillor Gorham Matthews and me. But however, the fact is I can see everybody who's on the call, and I can see when somebody wants to speak. I can see who's talking from the participants list and so on. So think about it. When we're all together in the room, how do we do that? Well, we do it visually. We look around the room, you see somebody in the audience stands up or puts his hand up, wants to speak. The chair recognizes him and so on. But we have to have access to Zoom in order to be able to deal with anybody who's not there. So what happens is if they come in audio just over a phone line, like we used to, think back to when we used to use the momentum conferencing. People want to speak. You don't know you don't know they're wanting to speak until they actually speak. So 4 or 5 people unmute their microphones and talk at once, and then you have to. It takes time to figure out who it is that wants to speak and and give somebody the floor and all that. So it makes it much more difficult to manage the meeting. That's in terms of keeping things flowing easily. That's why the internet, even if not everybody can see each other, that's why the internet in the community center is still important, still needed. And we've got some, but whether it's enough to sustain a Zoom call with a bunch of participants isn't clear. We have to investigate that a little more. Anyway, sorry, I don't want to belabor this. Because we're up against curfew just now. Is there anybody else who wants to speak to this particular item? I haven't.
Mr. Mayor, just real
quick.
Yes,
Councillor Woods. Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. As much as I always enjoyed the in-person council meetings, and I know, well, I'm pretty sure that the balance of council, you guys miss seeing me in person. That was a joke, by the way. I think if we can't do a hybrid model, we're gonna lose out on a lot of the good things that Zoom brings us. There's been people that have been participating in the meetings that never really had the opportunity before, whether or not they live here full time or they just live here seasonally. Some people that live here full time that like to get involved in meetings, they work out of town and they can't always get back for a meeting, right? Where they could always sign in on a phone or a laptop from work if it was a Zoom call. I don't want to lose the new audience that we've gained, because I think we've gotten a lot of good feedback from ratepayers keeping with Zoom. I would love to see everyone in person. I enjoyed going to the council meetings, oddly enough. But I wouldn't want to lose out on any of the audience that we've gained.
Okay, well, thank you for that comment. Thank you for all the comments. Does anyone wish to make a specific motion at this time, or are you content that we keep working away at this and trying to get to the
Let's
point where
revisit it in a month and see where it stands.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Could I ask for a motion to extend the meeting by half an hour, please? We're at if you can take the time from before supper, we're at past the 3.5 hours.
Councillor Lamb.
Thank you. Seconded by?
I'll
second, Councillor McNair.
I got Councillor Woods first there, so, okay. I assume nobody's objecting. Unless you're gonna move adjournment right away. Oh, sorry. I see another. I apologize. I thought I had just mixed up a blank sheet. Just say no resolution. All right. 14 curfew. Okay, that brings us to correspondence. We're getting close to the end here, I think. The correspondence is a relatively small number of items. I was going to let's get a mover and seconder here while I'm paging my screen back to review the correspondence and extract certain items yet to be determined for discussion. Is there a mover and seconder to receive the correspondence?
I'll move.
I'll move, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very
I'll
much.
second them.
All right, so the mover was Councillor McEwen, correct?
Yep.
Councillor McEwen, seconded by Councillor Woods. Okay, so what ones would you like to talk about? I'll start by, I'd like to make a comment about A. It's not exactly about A, but it's on the same subject. A. And this is the local Ontario health team is the subject. Is there any other one that strikes your fancy? If not, okay. So that's the only one then. Can I assume that motion is carried then? All right, thank you. So the matter arising from correspondence. You'll see if you look at it, it's a letter from the township of Strong, which is one of the townships around Brooks Falls. And it's a resolution regarding what Ontario Health Team they think their area of East Parry Sound should be part of. And the reason I pulled this was to highlight to you that there has been a similar discussion going on with respect to West Parry Sound. And I don't know how much you're following what Ontario is doing, the Ministry of Health is doing to sort of reorganize itself. But we used to have local health integration networks, and we were part of the Northeast Ontario LHIN, LHIN, they call them LHINs. And that included Sudbury and, well, went as far as Sault Ste. Marie, Sudbury, North Bay, Parry Sound, and so on. And they decided to reorganize around what are called health teams. And in Southern Ontario, there are already, I don't know, 40 health teams. I don't know the exact number right now. But the North has, they've been sort of trying to figure out, because you have these, much higher concentrations of population in Southern Ontario. So, within the Greater Toronto area, for example, there are several health teams. And a health team, by the way, just so you know, is supposed to consist of any agency that is delivering healthcare. So obviously hospitals, urgent care centers, primary care providers like family physicians, in-home care, any other medical services that are done on an itinerant basis, delivered to the home. Ultimately, I believe that long-term care, nursing homes and so on, and public health will eventually get wrapped into health teams, because the argument is that it's necessary for these various groups to work together. So in West Perry Sound, I'll try and get you a report on this for a future meeting that goes into more detail, because we don't have time right now, but there's been quite a bit of work done on looking at various, how to make the various pieces of our healthcare work together. And you will recognize one of the very important pieces that we have, of course, in Whitestone is the nursing station in Dunchurch. And it fills a very particular need for a whole bunch of residents in this neck of the woods that would otherwise only be met by them probably driving into either Perry Sound or maybe over towards Huntsville or North Bay or Sudbury or whatever. So anyway, the idea is to try to make sure that you don't have all these silos that are delivering different kinds of healthcare and people drop through the cracks. So there's been discussion going on for the past 2 years about what health team should West Perry Sound, with kind of centered around the West Perry Sound Health Center, what should it belong to? And the proponents, most of us have been arguing that we should be our own small health team. And originally they said, no, that's not going to happen because we don't have enough sufficient population. But a pretty good case has been made that we're actually ahead of the curve in a number of areas. A nursing station certainly is one thing. There's a proposal, and one of these days you're going to get a report from me about the Belvedere home, but there's a proposal to establish what is referred to as a campus of care on the West Perry Sound Health Center property. And a lot of work has been done on that. And this is in some sense the future of Belvedere, which, by the way, we own. We're a part owner of. Our municipality is. That's going to be part of likely the future of Belvedere is caught up in that campus of care concept. So I raised the question with the folks at West Perry Sound Health Center if they thought that we should be passing a resolution, and I didn't to support what is being asked of the Minister of Health. I have gone out on a limb and expressed my own view to her as to what we should be doing. But I thought you should be aware that this discussion is taking place, and it's possible that at some point in time we will be asked to support a resolution. The recommendations have gone into the minister from the what used to be the Northeast LHIN, and the remnants of the Northeast LHIN as to how this should be handled, and they seem now to be content to allow West Perry Sound to stand on its own, which doesn't mean that you don't have access to hospitals, the same hospitals that people use now in Huntsville and Aurelia and Barrie and North Bay and Sudbury. But just what are the boundaries of the administrative unit? So that's what this discussion really is about, and it will have some implications in future for how the money flows. So that's my dissertation on what's going on. Just to make you aware. Any comments or questions about that? Okay. So the next item that we have is, let me go back to the agenda here. Looks like councillor items. Do we have councillor items? Councillor Gorham Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to share a couple of upcoming events that councillors might not be aware of or have seen advertised yet. We're getting into some in-person events, which is kind of exciting and nerve-wracking at the same time. But on the Easter weekend, we're returning with the pancake breakfast, and the Easter Bunny will come visit all the kids on Saturday, the 16th of April at the community center. So you can mark that on your calendar. And the following week, the library is having an event on the 21st, which is in conjunction with the Friendship Center and the grassroots grant that the Agricultural Society got in conjunction with the library. So, and it's on sacred medicines, which should be really interesting. And that's at 7 at the community center. And then the last couple of years, we haven't had an Earth Day organized cleanup in the community, and we're doing that this year on the 22nd. And there'll be a cup of soup available for participants that are picking up garbage and want to come in and have a visit and have a cup of soup after they've been out collecting things off the roadside. So that's on the 22nd on the Friday. So few good things coming up in the community. That's exciting for people that are comfortable with getting together in person and building community events again.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other councillor items? Okay, so I have another real quick one. Just to let you know, the Planning for Canada Day has started by the Recreation Committee. The current plan, just so you know, the current plan is to Canada Day this year is on Friday, July 1st. The intention is to have the celebration, including, well, so far 3 things are proposed to be included. One, of course, is the fireworks. Prior to that, there would be some family activities. Maybe we will do the cardboard boat race again. I think was a lot of fun the last time we did one. And there will be some food, some refreshments and so on. And I guess the possibility of some entertainment is still there, but the intention is to focus those activities on the Friday evening. On the Saturday, to the best of our ability to determine at this point, the Legion is going to run its usual pork roast down at the Legion Hall. But that's a more formal kind of dinner, I guess. And so we won't be competing with them. And it seemed to us that the Friday night was the time that would, and people who are coming, even if they're starting their vacation on 1st of July, if they're not here already, if they're working through for some reason or other, working through the Friday, which is, I guess, officially the stat holiday, but if they are, then they would still have time to get here, at least in time for the fireworks. So that seemed like the best plan. I guess if it's bad weather, we might have to use the Saturday as a rain date, but the problem if we did that, of course, is that we would end up competing with our activities would end up competing with what's going on at the Legion. So anyway, that's just it's just as kind of a brief status report as to kind of where we are in talking about those things, but they're underway. So 17, are there any other councillor items? Questions from the public?
Yeah, hello, Mr. Mayor. It's Scott Nash. I have a couple questions, if I could, please.
Go ahead.
I guess the first question, I'm glad I was on the call tonight, but I noticed that you spoke about the public dock at Gooseneck Lake, and I guess I was just wondering, when I was looking through the agenda package, I didn't see that as an item that was in the agenda, so I'm wondering how it made it into the agenda if there's nothing written up about it. That's my first question. It makes it hard for people to prepare or to be able to ask questions if things are sprung upon people.
Well, the simple answer, initially, I did not see any need for well, I'll be honest with you, initially, I didn't see any need for any discussion about budget at all, but when we decided that there should be then we needed some motions to clarify the two other, well, to clarify the other item about road grants and to allow for to schedule the public meeting to finally finalize the budget. The concern was expressed that perhaps folks would not realize that there was more to this task than simply, once the budget approved, going out and ordering a dock and putting it there. And I wanted to make sure that people realize that there is more to be done. Not to say that we don't want to do it and we're not going to do it, but there may be some aspects of it that will take longer than we think. And my concern was that people would start, to either blame our staff or blame somebody for not executing on it properly. So that's why that was there. It was really an information item more than anything, but to draw to everyone's attention the fact that sometimes these things are more involved and take longer. That's all. It was more a question of trying to set expectations. That's why we put it there. So that's you could have. I felt it was better to raise the issue than not. And by the way, all the comments that were made there have been raised at previous meetings, but I kind of sensed that there was this expectation that somehow it was all we have to do is get past the budget and then a dock's going to appear, and it might take a bit longer. That's all.
Yeah, but no, and again, my question was, why was it not written in the agenda it would be spoken to tonight?
Because at the time that the agenda was circulated, that wasn't we didn't have any motions. What happens is some of the details follow the preparation of the rough outline agenda that this is what's going to be on. Sometimes the motions for things don't get written until later on. We try to, but it just depends on how busy everybody is and what's.
Okay, and I guess my second question is, and I guess I'll try and follow up with the municipality tomorrow after I've spoken to a couple of the other people that were part of putting together the presentation to you. But I know we'd try to mention it before, but I thought it would be good just to get it out there on the record now. And back in 2016, I'm just going to quote something for you from Mr. Jackson's reports. And I think Mr. Councillor Woods had alluded to it earlier tonight. And I'll quote, it says, the MNR recognizes that most of the existing facility is located on municipality controlled lands. Another quote, MNRF feels that expansion is reasonable and preferable to having increased parking on the shore road allowance that is under control of the municipality. And there's also a sketch that was included that shows the shore allowance was owned by the municipality. I know that's been mentioned several times. I think we tried to mention in our presentation as well. So I can follow up with staff over the next couple of days just to go over that. But it is very clear from MNR, from Mr. Jackson's reports, that you guys do have is two existing eye bolts that were already there to house an old dock that was there. So more of it was, I just wanted to get that out there so the councillors understand that MNR has already advised your planner that And that was all, but I'll try and follow up with staff over the next couple of days. Thanks a lot for letting me speak tonight.
Okay, thanks for your patience. Any other? I don't see anybody else from the public other than our reporter from the North Star. Anyway, if there are no further questions, I'll entertain a motion for the confirmatory bylaw.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Gorman Matthews. Seconded by
I'll second, Councillor Woods.
Councillor Woods. Thank you. All right. Any objection to that motion? Thank you. Hearing none. A motion to adjourn, please.
I'll make it, Councillor Lamb.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb. Who seconded?
I'll second if you need one.
Oh, yeah, we should have a seconder. I guess, and we are at 9:30 p.m. So now therefore be it resolved that this meeting be adjourned at 9:30 p.m. until the special council meeting of Tuesday, April 12th at 6:30 p.m. or at the call of the chair. And I don't plan to call you before then, but anyway. Anyone opposed? Thank you. Have a good evening, everybody. Stay well.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.